Jeg synes, det er virkelig fedt, at LCS Finals kommer til Danmark. Især fordi det er sådan et lille land, og jeg er fra Danmark, og det har ikke rigtig haft noget e-sports opmærksomhed i lang tid. Og jeg kan ikke engang huske, om det har haft det generelt. Altså, der har været små lands, men ikke rigtig noget stort, så det er bare virkelig fedt, synes jeg. Jeg synes, det ville være fedt, hvis jeg kunne opleve sådan noget, fordi jeg synes, det er lidt unikt at have danske fans se en spille. Fordi det er bare anderledes, når det er danskere, synes jeg. Fordi man føler sig sådan connected på en måde, fordi det er der, jeg kommer fra, og det er det sprog, jeg snakker. Så det vil virkelig være noget, jeg gerne vil opleve, men det kan jeg ikke endnu i hvert fald.
Welcome back, everyone. Remember that tickets for next week's finals in Copenhagen are still available, so head on over to lolesports.com for more on how to join us in the Royal Arena.
Yeah, Jensen, I believe he has some time, so he can come as well if you want to.
Jensen, PerkZ, Sven, they've all got a lot of time at the moment. But here in today's semi-final contest, though, Splyce has the edge after an explosive win in Game 1, Vedius.
Yes, Kobbe is one step closer to securing his spot in the final and playing in front of his home crowd and denying Wunder the opportunity. So, depending on how the rest of the series goes, he could be the one to lock in that spot, but we're going to be able to find out as we're jumping into Champion Select.
There's so many people who haven't got to the finals in this matchup. You've got kaSing, you've got Jankos, you've got Odoamne as well. All of these guys challenging for that final spot. Of course, Nisqy, in his first split in the EU LCS, hasn't got there at all. G2 on the blue side this game, Splyce on the red. They would have had side selection, so they chose red. And the first bans are Zach, Xayah, and Trundle from G2. And Splyce are going to get rid of the kaSing and Camille.
Does suggest that G2 are looking for an Olaf once again in the draft. Camille being taken off the board from Splyce, constant respect being shown towards Wunder. Now typically G2 on blue side, if it is up and available, will look to go for either the Swain or the Sion as their biggest priority. You'd imagine Splyce will look to ban that away unless they feel confident in giving it over to G2, which it does appear that they will.
Swain in the hands of PerkZ possibly, or in the hands of Wunder in that top lane. As we said, it can be flexed. Don't have the Trundle to combine it with out of the jungle, but...
I mean, you can do it with any jungler. My favorite combo is actually Sejuani plus Swain. I think that it sets you up really nicely because the ultimate lands from Sejuani, you pull them in, and then because they're rooted, you then have the follow-up with the E, so you can chain CC for a very long time. We'll see if that does become the priority, though. No, Splyce, they could go for an early Skarner here if they wanted to. They wanted to prioritize the jungle, but we've typically seen things like Caitlyn be a bigger priority for individuals like Kobbe, with Xayah taken off of the board. You would imagine that Sion and Kate would be the two big pickups for Splyce.
Yeah, Caitlyn and Xayah are Kobbe's most played. Tristana sitting underneath that, but no one really plays her anymore apart from Reckless Fnatic.
Yeah.
There is the Caitlyn 6-1, 5-1 over 6 games for Kobbe on that, so a good omen for them. And the Skarner comes out from G2, something Jankos has played a lot alongside the Tahm Kench for Wadid.
Do feel like Wadid overall had a good game on the Tahm Kench, even if his scoreline did not illustrate that. The Skarner going to be another early game active jungler for Jankos. We'll be looking to try and find these opportunities in the first 20 minutes of the game, see if you can get a couple of ganks off towards what I imagine will be the top side, as that seems to be Jankos' go-to strat. Xerxe now being put onto more of a defensive, supportive jungler in the form of the Sejuani. Offers a lot of value in terms of team fighting and pick potential, but also synergizes quite nicely with the engage that Sion can provide.
Now as we come into the second ban phase, there's so many options for both of these teams. Splyce can get rid of top laners, get rid of AD carries. G2 on the other side can look towards pinching that mid pool, or even kaSing's support pool if they really want to get rid of some of those ranged supports that caused them so much trouble in Game 1.
So, you know, I think that Splyce are more than happy to have the Sion play into the Swain, given that typically Swain does pretty well into tanks, but Sion is one of those dudes that never really struggles in lane. Lane is one of his strongest aspects, given his pushing power, his ability to trade, the shield that he gets, the constant health that he's generating from killing stuff. He's kind of obnoxious, so I think Splyce would be more than happy, which is why they're banning out top laners, because they're actually expecting the Swain to go into the mid.
Have to see if that is the case. Of course, as you say, Nisqy can play that Sion in the mid lane. Varus as well taken away from Hjärnan. That is his most played across the course of the split. And although he mispositioned in that final fight, he had a good rest of the game on the Jhin. Was 3-0-5 at one point, was putting out a lot of damage. The curtain calls were strong as well. there is the ban away from kaSing, so he's going to move across towards a different range support.
Now I do feel like Braum would make the most sense here, but Splyce doing what they always do and saving support for the counter pick. kaSing much better performances when he has his hands on a range support rather than the melee. So they secure the fact that it will be a Ryze in the middle lane. It'll be what we imagined the opposite matchup of what we saw before. And G2, they're going to go for once again the same matchup as last time with the Jhin. I think that it is a fairly safe AD carry. It will do fine into the Caitlyn, but against a range support, you're going to struggle a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw either a Zilean or a Lulu come out from the side of Splyce here. But still, I feel like that in terms of the comp, Brawl makes the most sense.
It's going to be Swain top, Cassiopeia mid for PerkZ, we assume, against Nisqy's Ryze. Hasn't played that at all this split, so really looking back to one of those carry champions he played in times past. And it's so important for PerkZ to step up in this game. It's so important for Wunder as well to step up, because now you're looking down the barrel of 2-0 if you lose this. Splyce on their way to a clean sweep in the game. G2 have a lot of weight on their shoulders coming into this matchup.
Oh, they certainly do. And look at these comps that have come out. G2 I want to have a little bit more time to think about their comp, because it's kind of a little bit all over the place. But for Splyce, it's pretty straightforward. They have pushing, but oh, of course, the Cassio into the top lane, Sion. Definitely an interesting matchup. They also get the Swain out of that matchup, and they can move it into the middle lane. So we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into game. But overall, in terms of the comp here from Splyce, they have a lot of early game potential. You have the Caitlyn, who has pressure in the bot with the Zilean, especially against the Jhin Tahm. You should have decent early push with the Ryze to allow him to roam, and then Sion. Sion is just obnoxious in lane. We talked a little bit about it already. The only problem is Splyce don't have the best early game jungler, but once they hit level 6, I imagine that their goal will be to take an early tower bot and then move this Caitlyn around the map as much as possible and take advantage of Kobbe and his proficiency on the champion.
I have to see if Splyce are able to play towards the early game. It's something they did nearer the end of the split. It wasn't a massive proficiency of theirs, but still something they were able to do, especially against some of the worse teams in the league, like Roccat last week, who they demolished a lot in the early game. As the players load on into the game, let's check in with Quickshot and hear from G2's coach after that draft.
Thank you very much, Medic. Yes, I am joined by Grabbz. Just a really quick question before we jump in. Swain, high priority, and a little bit of a switcheroo. No tank for Wunder in the top lane. It's the Cassio. What led you to that?
I mean, Swain is always a free pressure into tanks anyways. And as we saw last game, he's very, very annoying with his pull. So just having more pressure on the map with top and mid will enable us to actually go for invade sometimes. And hopefully this game, we are the annoying ones, not them.
Well, we're about to find out. Best of luck as you head into game 2. Back to Medic and Vedius at the desk.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Some wise words there from Grabbz, looking for pressure on the top side of the map, playing towards those two carries, PerkZ and Wunder. We talk about them so often, this is the game they have to step up.
It's going to be interesting to see how they do it. Cassio is, in fact, in the middle lane. I unfortunately misspoke. You've always got to wait for that 20-second part.
Switched it around.
Yeah, they did indeed. So they debated me just a little bit. But yeah, so we got Swain into Sion. We've seen this matchup before. I believe it was Bwipo that brought it out in recent weeks. He picked the Swain into the Sion, and he focused a little bit too much on trying to harass the Sion down, and then wasn't paying attention to farm, and meaning that he actually fell pretty far behind in the laning phase. We'll have to see if Wunder can play things a little differently. Typically, when you are a ranged mage going up against a tank, you will always have that kind of pressure and irritation, but also the bigger thing is the fact that he's paired up with a Skarner, which means that that duo in particular can set up a lot of effective ganks towards the top side. And given that Jankos will likely be starting on the bottom side of his map, that could be a good opportunity for them to look for plays on the top side. But Cassio into Ryze. You also heard Grabbz talk about how it allows him to gain pressure in the middle lane. Basically, the great thing about Cassio into Ryze is she is another DPS mage. She doesn't have a huge amount of burst. She needs to set up the combo of landing the poison and then spamming her Twin Fang. Similarly to Ryze, who needs to get his combo off before he really lands the damage. And Cassio just kind of straight up out DPSs him, but also Ryze kind of has to run into range of Cassio while also facing her in order to deal his DPS. So it becomes a lot easier for the Cassio to basically out-trade him, out-duel him, and is often why she's considered a great counter pick into the Ryze.
That's why you can put someone like PerkZ on it and expect him to carry in these sorts of games. G2, of course, still trying to live up to the legacy of the team that went before them. You know, only PerkZ remains of the team that won 4 splits in a row. Only PerkZ remains to try and carry them to that 5th consecutive win. He has never been to a playoffs and not won a championship, Vedius. It is a legacy that he has forged for himself, and now is trying to help forge for the rest of this G2 lineup.
And he's had a very impressive success story. PerkZ definitely will go down in history as one of the best mid laners that EU has ever had, especially given the title and record that he's been able to build up for himself. Right now, he's effectively putting a lot of pressure down onto Nisqy and asserting his dominance for the time being.
So really small interaction about this mid lane. PerkZ has gone presence of mind on the Cassiopeia. Okay. So whenever he levels up, he's going to go really aggressive onto Nisqy. Spam out the Twin Fangs, get as much damage down as possible. And you can see it's one of the reasons he doesn't mind using a lot of his mana pool just to clear out the wave so that when he levels up, he can really push into Nisqy's face.
Yeah, good spot there, Medic. I think it's a really nice interaction. Like the fact that PerkZ is taking advantage of that. He's using it to push Nisqy back. Will allow Jankos to invade onto the enemy side of the jungle, and we can see now top and mid being pushed in. Very much what Grabbz expected during the early laning phase, and we're actually seeing it down in the bottom lane as well. Curious as to how that came to be. Wonder if Hjärnan and Wadid were able to get to lane sooner and get that early push, giving them a little bit more pressure, but given that it is a ranged support, I do expect things to change as time goes on.
And Splyce seem to be willing just to sacrifice a little bit of pressure in their lanes, allow G2 to push up and accept that they're reaching towards that level 6 mark. We talked about it, Nisqy with the Realm Warp, you've got the Glacial Prism from Xerxe as well. And that is really when we'll see Splyce come online. Good tracking from Jankos as he knows where Xerxe is now. Only the Krugs were left up in Xerxe's jungle, so it's not too much of a surprise that he decided to go and clear them out.
PerkZ, pretty good record all time with Cassio. Also note that the Infernal Drake is the first one on the board. Splyce, the Scuttle Crab will just run out. G2 not going to go for the same. Oh, never mind. They will go for the same early game. Infernal, looks like Jankos is just going to solo that one out. He has pressure in mid and bot. Xerxe is also nowhere near yet. So they're more than happy to secure this one. G2 have demonstrated good dragon control so far in this series.
The early game just generally has been relatively good, especially the objective control, as you say. Got the Rift Herald and the first 2 dragons in the last game. Here with the Shrine, Skarner, extra attack speed, extra mana regeneration can just take down that dragon at the level 4. There it goes, Infernal 5 minutes in to G2.
Yeah, and I just want to very quickly, quick flash out from Jankos, showing respect towards Nisqy there. He doesn't have full vision of where Xerxe is, so he doesn't even want to risk the potential collapse, especially without his mid laner nearby. So, like the respect being shown there. Don't know if he can contest these. PerkZ is hanging around.
Remember, Jankos does have a stun. Would be able to catch out Xerxe, but he gets away.
But yeah, very quickly, I want to take this opportunity to
do it, Vedius. Take the opportunity. Seize it.
Doran's ring on Hjärnan. We're so used to seeing it now that we kind of forget that it does seem kind of odd for an AD carry to start with an AP item initially. The main reason for it is on the Q, you have a very good AP scaling ratio. So by running the Doran's ring, it adds to your wave play and gives you a little bit more trading power as well. So as a first item, you'll often see it on Jhin to just help you give a little bit more lane dominance. So just in case fans may not have seen that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is a bit counterintuitive if you don't know the complexities of the champion. And one of the complex matchups that we have in this game is that top lane. It's the Swain into the Sion, it's Wunder into Odoamne, 2 of the players who've performed at the top of the league in the second half of the split. You can see both of them challenging for that top lane spot, the best in Europe.
Just look at their rankings, 1st to 3rd across the board. Both definitely shown a lot of improvement. And the key thing here is the second half of the split. Odo, he definitely had a rough start. He was one of the big...
He had a bad case of enteritis.
Yes, he certainly did. He was one of the big points of criticism for the side of Splyce. But in the second half, he really picked things up, challenged Wunder very nicely for that top spot, even though statistically, Wunder is only slightly ahead of him. But still, it's always fascinating to watch these two butt heads. And so far, Wunder displaying his dominance over the 1 versus 1.
Yeah, it's arranged into a melee matchup, and Wunder's had carries in both the games, so I think you can forgive Odo a little bit. There's Petra engaged. Here comes the engage from Xerxe. PerkZ is going to get locked up, still has the flash. We'll use it in the end.
like the kaSing roam up towards the middle lane. Sets up nicely for an effective gank that gets both summoner spells out from PerkZ. Talked about how Xerxe, not on the most effective early game jungler, yet so far he's shown more early game impact than Jankos has. Even pretty level 6, but now Jankos, he has the Predator boots. He has popped it, I believe. Oh,
Popped it in the mid lane.
Kobbe gets locked up.
Kobbe's going to get caught out. kaSing there as well, but Kobbe so low, taken down by Jankos, smited away.
He just wanted to get the assist, ends up stealing away the kill, and uncharacteristically, Kobbe, he makes a big mistake there. kaSing did not have his ultimate available, and in the replay, we'll get to see how exactly Kobbe messes that up, because you would not expect a man of his caliber to be making those kind of laning mistakes.
Not at all. He's been so consistent on Splyce across the course of the split, someone you can always rely on just to stay even in the lane and then carry when the game progresses. But we'll see just why he's this overextended.
So he wants to try and get a push off. He gets a little too close to the wave. He wants to clear it out with the Q, and he thinks that with kaSing coming back, he should be fine. But that's just a case of greed right there from Kobbe. And he doesn't respect the all-in power from G2. Ends up losing his life as a result.
So Wunder's going to push forward a little bit here. Doesn't realize Xerxe's behind him. PerkZ was on his way up as well, but here comes the engage. Odoamne is the first one to start it off. Wunder pops the demonic ascension to try and sustain through this.
That's
and he's getting a lot of damage back down onto Odo. Glacial Prism comes out. And
wow.
G2 were reacting in time as well. Wunder shows us exactly why Swain is so strong.
Yeah, if you guys weren't entirely convinced by Swain, I feel like Wunder should have just given you a pretty solid argument for why it's so contested. 2 versus 1. Was forced to use the flash, but the fact that he was in that situation and forced Odoamne to retreat, definitely best case scenario for him.
It's a good start from G2, 1,000 gold lead, 9 minutes in, CS advantage in the top and in the mid lane, slightly behind in bot, but kind of to be expected into a Caitlyn. But the push pressure has definitely been in favor of G2. Grabbz says that's what they wanted, when they're definitely getting it at the moment.
What are they doing with their vision? They've gone a little bit into the entrances of Splyce's jungle. You can see it kind of littered all across the board from G2, so they have a rough idea of where Xerxe is, giving their laners a little bit more confidence to play how they like. Good river control really coming out from G2, whereas Splyce, given the weak laners that they have right now, bottom lane dying in the 2 versus 2, Nisqy being forced back by PerkZ, and Odoamne just struggling in the matchup means that they can't get that same kind of vision control, which means that G2 should be set up nicely to secure themselves the next Infernal Drake.
Splyce just going to try and get the blue for themselves. That will go over to Nisqy, who throughout the course of the regular split wasn't a standout performer on Splyce at all, but in the quarterfinals really stepped up to the plate. Only died once across the course of the entire 3-match series, giving him that KDA of 34.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this in Game 1, where we kind of struggled to see his impact, but coming into playoffs, Nisqy definitely seemed to have a much larger role in his team's success. His team fighting was good. He played a pretty solid kaSing overall, and he's still pretty even on farm, and we'll have to see how well he does against the likes of PerkZ, because as we said, Game 1, not the same kind of impact that we saw from the quarterfinals.
I'm really interested to see how this game develops from here, Vedius, because in pick and ban, it was a little bit odd to us what G2 was picking and how they were rotating, you know, taking the Cassio mid, taking the Swain top, picking the double AP into the Splyce composition. I couldn't quite see what they wanted to do, and although they've had push pressure...
He's gonna kill it.
Nah, he's got unstoppable onslaught.
Oh,
he can run away.
Good point.
Just run away.
He was trying to get the body block, but I was looking at summoner spells and I was like, Odo's dead. But you were right, he was able to get away with his life, but again, more pressure being generated up in the top side.
What does this pressure get G2 though? What do they gain from
Another
this?
dragon. Because Odo can base and he can potentially TP down to bot, but the bigger thing here is the fact that the tower on top lane is slowly being chipped away. And remember, when you have Caitlyn Zilean, gank at the bottom lane.
Oh, speedy. Xerxe looking for it.
Skarner is around,
There's a
right?
Scorpion in the bush.
So look at this, right? Ideally, if you're playing Caitlyn, with any range support, you want to be taking the bottom tower at around 10 to 15 minutes. Once you've taken it, you then move it around the map, the Caitlyn bottom lane, and you just take all these outer towers. And that's how you build the early lead, right? And then with that early lead, you can use it to stall, to allow Caitlyn to get to 3 items where she then has impact, because she's not a great 2-item AD carry. The problem is for them, though, is that because they've died 2v2 in the bottom lane, G2 are the ones that have pressure bot. They also have pressure top. and Splyce are not able to take these early towers, which means that Jankos can freely get into the enemy jungle, drop all these wards. G2, Swain, and Cassio are freely farming up. Jhin is doing the same, and while you would consider Skarner to be an early game impact jungler, G2 have these scaling options and overall strong team fighting that, well, they're more than happy to just let this game go on.
So again, you see G2 playing around the back timers here. Their new kaSing and Kobbe have gone back to base and they start up the Infernal Drake. It's going to be their second of the game. 12 minutes in. G2's early dragon control across this series has been absolutely top-notch.
It has excellent stuff from them. Splyce struggling a little bit. And they don't have the same kind of late-game insurance that they had in Game 1. They don't have the Sivir. Caitlyn always, yes, she's impactful in the late game, but when you think about all these damage dealers available on G2, she's not going to have the same kind of freedom that she had in the game before. And Ryze does kind of fall off in the late game. The reason why, again, is because it becomes harder for him to hit these carries in the late game, given his pretty short range. And people like Cassio, if you end up with a late game situation of Cassio versus Ryze, yeah, Cassio is going to win that pretty damn hard. So Splyce, the fact that they've lost lane pretty hard could hurt them in the long run. We'll see if they're able to find some kind of picks. The emphasis is going to kind of come down to Xerxe to get a little bit more pressure back on the map for Splyce.
And this is what we were saying at the start of Game 1. Xerxe is the ignition. He's the go signal for Splyce. If he's making plays, Splyce can get ahead. But in pure laning terms, in pure mechanical terms, G2 are the better team here. PerkZ is better than Nisqy in the lane. Wunder's been playing better than Odo in the lane. Hjärnan and Wadid, although they've struggled, their laning phase has always been solid.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because I feel like that's the biggest difference between the two, and it kind of leads us nicely into this graphic where you can just see the CS averages between 15 and 30 minutes for G2 versus the EU average, right? And just look at the difference in top, mid, and AD carry. G2 just have strong laners that are very good at farm, and when you approach the mid game, they have really smart lane assignments and often know exactly what to do and how to allocate their resources across the map. This is a better example of that, and we do see Gank in the bottom lane.
Immediate cleanse from Wadid. Xerxe looking for the chase here, but Hjärnan and Wadid will get themselves to safety. Jankos going to put the Rift Hold in the top lane. That should be top tower going to G2. And just want to come back to that graphic because G2 on average get 970 CS between the 15 and 30 minute mark.
Right.
And we pulled, you know, LCK and LCS. And guess what? G2 are the best team in the world.
In the world?
In the world! They're better than Jhin, they're better than Afrika, they're better than SKT.
SKT.
Basically, what we're saying is EU is the best region.
I mean, I didn't quite say that, but statistically, there's a lot of evidence.
Technically, I am correct.
Technically, you are correct.
That's the important thing.
So, what basically just happened was G2 secured themselves the top tower. This is pretty good for them, because remember that Splyce wanted to be not only the team to get the first tower, but they then wanted to move their Caitlyn and Zilean around the rest of the map. But because of that kind of fumble in the early game, they haven't been able to do that. So G2 have used their pressure very effectively. You can see that Wunder already nearing that 2-item spike. They've even moved him off to the middle lane because they want to just keep utilizing the pressure that Swain generates. Even though he has TP up. Wow, okay, this is quite interesting, must admit. Poor PerkZ.
But this was interesting to me as well, because I was wondering how Splyce would stall out the game a little bit, as they tend to do.
Sure.
They've got Abyssal Mask on their mid laner, and they've got a Banner of Command, which actually works really well into Wunder and PerkZ, who are both magic damage dealers.
Yes, it does. The thing is, I don't know if Splyce really wants to stall things out. Like, we just saw the gank bot lane from Xerxe. That's what he wants to be doing. And the fact that he tried to go for it is definitely a positive sign. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay off. They were only able to get one Summoner spell. And now G2 are actually in a position to try and play towards bot. But look at all the vision. Look at the setup coming out from Splyce. Don't want to try and answer.
Remember, Nisqy's off towards the top side. Does have the teleport. Kobbe's going to come in here as well. The smite comes out from Jankos. Flash in from Xerxe. It's onto Hjärnan, but unable to get anything more from that. Yeah,
that was tragic. Xerxe's ulti just came off cooldown after the flash. He kind of misread that, wanted to use his W to try and get the slow and wasn't able to land it. So now G2, they get themselves the mid-tier 1. And while Splyce are able to answer, look at the flank coming in from Jankos. They might want to try a team fight right now.
TP in as well from Wunder. This is going to be a 4v5. PerkZ is on his way down. Wunder there, flashes in Demonic Ascension. You can't do anything against the word, because the word for G2 is a victory. They get 2 kills, and they force Xerxe and Odoamne away. Tahm, Kench in, Hjärnan on the flank. Xerxe just runs straight head first into a catfish, and Hjärnan gets the kill.
Absolute destruction of Splyce. G2 found a beautiful team fight. They're going to find the final outer tower. And G2, this is a much better early game than game 1.
So strong from them. 17 minutes in, 5,000 gold ahead. They've taken all of the tier 1 towers as well, getting kills on towards Wunder, who now has a 5-stack Rod of Ages and a Liandry's Torment. On the other side, Splyce are just collapsing. Xerxe, this is the first time in 9 games he has not got a kill or assist at the 15-minute mark, and it shows.
So, this is a good TP flank, and just look at it. Appreciate the damage. A good double route into Jankos ulti, the Jhin, the Swain, everything. So beautiful. Excellently executed that from G2. Splyce, they wanted to try and answer. We talked about how they feel the need to make a play right now given the comp that they have. And now we have a 3v1.
PerkZ in a 1v3. When you come at the king, you best not miss, because PerkZ going to try and turn this one around. Kobbe gets the chrono shift on him. PerkZ does fall.
I mean, that was just a little unfair. But Splyce, they are able to get a return kill at long last. Now, Wunder in the 1v1. Odo only has his flash available.
Hjärnan on his way. Deadly Flash flashed away there. Hjärnan did just get the curtain call back off cooldown as well, so if Odo had been caught, could have been able to secure the kill.
So Splyce will finally secure themselves another tower. Oh, this is a very big gold deficit to be in this early on.
Double Infernal away from them as well. Next Dragon is an Ocean, which I don't think G2 will care too much about at this portion of the game.
So the question is, how well can G2 close things out now? Because you have identified that Splyce typically are pretty good at stalling things out. And making plays like this will definitely help. 4-man collapse up towards the top side. Nothing really for G2 to punish off the back of this play. And PerkZ does his best, but no, regardless of who he turns his focus onto, kaSing's ulti is there. Yeah. So maybe he gets a kill, but he's not actually going to get a kill.
But imagine if he had got a kill.
I mean, it would have been like style points for him. He would have won the moral battle.
And that's the important battle to win, because this whole series is a battle of brothers. You know, you've got Jankos versus Odo, you've got Kobbe versus Wunder, you've got kaSing versus Hjärnan, all of these tragic backstories of people who just can't quite win. And now someone has to, Vedius.
Yes, very true. I mean, they could both technically lose the final, but yes, they could make it there.
They could at least make it to finals. Most of these guys haven't even done that. Jankos has been in semifinals 6 times and has never won a final.
Oh, it even lands too. That's rough. Xerxe, that's the second feels bad moment. So he will just walk that one off. Unfortunate for him, 2 ultis used. He's trying to be proactive, to be fair to him.
Yeah. Just difficult when you're 5,000 gold behind.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Communication coming through from the team. Very vocal Baron about to spawn as well. How good is the river control? You know, it's funny because I do believe we have a mode in order to check how good the vision control is. Jankos looking for a gank up towards the top side.
Predator lasts for a long time, looking to sink his stinger into Nisqy. Can't quite make the connection because of that ruined prison, which does lock up the Scorpion. Kobbe takes a lot of damage there as well in the mid lane. He's going to be able to retreat behind the backside of the boar as Xerxe protects his AD carry.
So I very quickly want to swap up to the bird's eye view because I want to see how the vision will now shift given that G2 have priority over mid and top and can start filtering wards into the enemy jungle. They can deny a lot of the vision away from Splyce. Jankos still has his sweeper available. And if we can just look at the vision from G2, you'll see how much control they've gained over the top side of the map. They do have that little ward around blue, but now let's swap it over to Splyce. How much river control? Absolutely none. And you can just see, this is what Splyce see on the map right now. You can see how restricted and limited in terms of the plays that they have available. They've now just dropped a ward over in the Baron Pit, but being in this situation feels very dire and can feel very difficult in terms of what to do next.
And this is why we talk about how important Baron setup is. We've got such a great tool to demonstrate demonstrate it now. Splyce have no way of knowing if that Baron's been started. They don't know if Wunder's still in the bottom lane. They don't know what's going on across the rest of the map. And against a team that has a Cassiopeia on it, you always have to be wary of that quick Baron.
Yes, unfortunately it's also a Jhin.
Yeah, that's a bit slower.
But you're right, Skarner, Cassio, Swain, I still think that's all a pretty fast Baron. And speaking of, they're just going to kick things off.
Yeah, no vision here from Splyce, no long-range totems either.
They do need the Cassio,
The Sply. Here's Odo. PerkZ off towards the side. Wunder there. G2 just trying to make the engage. The unstoppable onslaught gets caught out. There's the suppression. Look at the damage in the back line. That's why you pick Swain. kaSing's going to get away. Odo in the demon form chases out Hjärnan as well, but he did fall.
Wow, another great fight there for G2. They've got their eyes back on the Baron. The front line of Splyce is unavailable. Do they want to take the risk right now, or will PerkZ look for more kills?
Trying to get on towards kaSing. He uses the speed up the cleanse, but you can't get away from the fangs of PerkZ. There's another kill for him. We talked about his carry potential. Well, he's showing us exactly what he can do when unleashed in this game.
The irony of Splyce falling to Cassio is so great right now as PerkZ kicking off the Baron. They should be relatively quick with both the Skarner and the Cassio, but Xerxe is around. Wunder, very, very low.
The root comes out, but Hjärnan's here now, and Nisqy realizes he's not in the best spot. He gets one. Looking for the round warp out, gets the root. Hjärnan, so low. The close. Hjärnan has to get away. Deadly. Flourish is enough.
Wow!
That's the kill in the end.
So many outplays. The Baron's still going on. Oh, Xerxe
knocked out, doesn't have the flash either, but the Baron's so low.
Oh my god!
They're gonna take it away as the Baron regen, and let's have a quick look. 6,000 HP.
Oh, he's back to health. Okay.
Splyce don't want to do it.
G2 got so lucky there. So lucky. If that Baron had not regen, Splyce would have secured themselves the Baron. And that was all off the back of Nisqy. Wow. This guy, we talked about him having a great quarterfinal performance last week. We saw him have some pretty sick outplays there against Wunder. I will start it by saying that Wunder, pretty sure he was pretty low at the beginning, but once we get the replay, we can properly appreciate whether or not it was a great play from Nisqy. Secured himself the kill, allows Splyce to get themselves the mid-tier 1. The map is now so much more open, and Splyce, at the very least, regain a little bit more control over the map.
But they don't have the scaling they did in previous games. Let's have another look at this. This is Odo getting caught out. It started G2 towards that Baron.
Yeah, so the flash in from Wunder to interrupt. The dragon from Jankos kind of splits up G2 and makes it difficult for them to continue the chase. I feel like the miasma could have been enough for G2 to get the kill because you obviously can't flash out when you're locked in, but they are able to secure the kill. Now PerkZ, he moves up towards the top side. He has his eyes on kaSing, wants to try and get the punish, and is able to find an easy kill. And now we get to see the bit of an outplay. So he actually has quite a lot of HP left. This is a great play hit from Nisqy. Just spamming his abilities. Wunder, even though he gets the heal, isn't quite able to do it. Nisqy just showing how strong Ryze really is.
I think if he hits that Q, they get the kill.
I actually think you're right. If he lands that Q, that would have been the kill. Yeah, it would have been secured by Kobbe. And then Hjärnan gets the style points.
That's some swag right there. Deadly flash away.
Yep, he didn't want to be in range of the Ryze, so he just shows the utmost of respect. Baron doesn't go down to anyone in the end.
Let's have a quick refresh of exactly the state of the game here, though, because there's still a 6,000 gold lead for G2. They are still very much in control of this. Double Infernal and the Ocean Drake, 4 towers to 3, starting to get these second, third items on their carries. G2, very much their game to lose, it feels like.
Yes, it certainly is, and it's very different from game 1 where they kind of relied on getting an early leads and then effectively closing things out with the Baron. Splyce's teamfight comp is not the same as it was before. And in terms of individual talent, it's one of the things that you can always praise G2 for. They don't rely on any one member to be the big carry. They just have so many playmakers on their team that they're able to find avenues for success in multiple ways. And when you have PerkZ, who's this farmed up on the Cassio, you have Wunder, who's already had a huge impact on the Swain. It is certainly their game to throw away.
Wunder's going to pop the Demonic Ascension. kaSing and Nisqy
the lifesteal.
As well. The lifesteal is huge, but Nisqy is going to have a lot of damage from the side, and Wunder can't survive for much longer. Nisqy gets in the bounce, started up here though by G2. It's all on Xerxe, no flash. Wadid in his face, licking down, I guess, as Xerxe falls off towards the top side. Here's the TP coming in from Odoamne as well, but the Baron is already gone. Xerxe unable to rejoin the fight. Splyce trying to find a little bit of a skirmish, the connection on towards Hjärnan. He doesn't quite go down. The smite comes out. Odo has to flash, but eventually he falls. PerkZ gets Xerxe as well. Now Nisqy, Kobbe, and kaSing. But Odoamne popped with the chrono shift there. The teleport coming in on the side as well. Splyce do have to disengage at some point.
So, how many Barons get away? I want to say that's 3 for G2 at the very end. Splyce get a kill down onto Wunder, but G2 are more than happy to take the advantage here. Yeah, I believe it was actually Wunder that ended up using that TP, so he uses the spellbook to swap the TP and then back to cleanse. Good assistance there that he provided.
Yeah, good stuff from Wadid. He's done that quite a few times on the Tahm Kench as well.
Do feel like Wadid overall has had a great series, but here we are. So Wunder is trying to do the dragon by himself. He feels like if they send multiple members down bot, then it's fine because my team can then start the Baron. TP is available, and you have that ward by the time. Surprised he didn't ward earlier, but I guess they want the Baron to get a little bit low before he then committed to the fight. Great play there from Wadid to zone Xerxe away. There's literally nothing he can do. And here, Hjärnan makes a mistake because he feels that he can commit to Odo, but he doesn't respect again that Xerxe is on the flank looking for an engage. And sure, they're able to get themselves a 1-for-1 trade, but he should have just disengaged with his team, looked for an opportunity to get out. But instead, it ends up being another Baron buff lost, even though G2 are still overall still in control.
So it sits on Wadid, PerkZ, and Jankos at the moment. We'll see if PerkZ continues to split in that side lane. It's what he's been doing for the majority of this game. Kind of a 1-3-1 from G2 at a lot of the mid game. And they are pushing forward towards the base of Splyce. Have the pressure in the mid lane. Gonna get a little bit of chunk damage down. And now it's up to Splyce to answer. They do not have as strong a late game as they did in game 1. They do still have the Caitlyn though, with the Ardent Sensor. They still have a Ryze who is building up towards that Rabadon's death cap. And they've got double banner of command, Vedius, to try and stop this Cassiopeia and Swain in the side lane.
Yeah, that will certainly help. The wave fit and pressure will be heavily mitigated. Now, Odo's in trouble.
This is not good for Odo. 4 players around him. The suppression comes out. He's managed to survive for a while, but not for much longer. G2 get a kill in that bottom lane.
G2 trying to help Odo get maximum efficiency with his ult. Cleanse Flash being forced to use from PerkZ there.
Ace in the hole comes out as well, but PerkZ, petrifying gaze, stares into the eyes of Splyce and roots them to the spot. And now the inhibitor tower in the bottom lane is G2's target. And we'll be able to secure that. Gonna push forward for a little bit more here. Have to be cautious though, you remember. Kobbe on this Caitlyn can do a lot of work. One of his most played carries, one of his hyper carries we saw early in the split, the champion who got his pentakill on. Splyce have an opportunity right now to find an avenue to engage, but they cannot find it. Mid lane inhibitor tower goes down, inhibitor goes in the bottom lane as well. And G2 accept how much of the base they've broken. Odo back alive, PerkZ on that front line.
G2 being very patient, want to secure themselves that final lane here, but will decide not to overextend and just back off. 10 seconds left on the Baron. No need to overstay. They've got what they wanted. They got themselves a kill. 9,000 gold in the lead. Everything looking great for G2. So this is just, we did take advantage of the Tahm Kench ulti. Odo can't really do much about it. He's trying to defend a turret that he shouldn't. And then G2 are like, oh hey bro, you're dead now. And then they secure themselves another tower. So G2 more than happy, playing this early game exceptionally well. Seem to know exactly what to do with the lead that they have gotten. But again, they still have to end the game. And that has often been a difficulty when any team goes up against Splyce.
Somehow they get this buff when they're 5 to 10,000 gold behind that just stalls out the game. So often it's just a slight misplay that they are able to take advantage of. 4,000 gold off that Baron power play, 10,000 gold the lead for G2.
You know, and I love that you referenced that, these small misplays that G2 are able to take advantage of, because remember, all this stems from the fact that Kobbe died 2v2 in the bottom lane. Like, this whole composition revolves around the Caitlyn Zilean having pressure bot and being able to take the early tower. You know, with the Ryze level 6 and Sejuani level 6, you can look to make a play down towards the bottom side of the map. And then you just take these towers very early on, and then you move around. But because he falls, they never regained pressure. Hjärnan with Wadid could take advantage of the Jhin Tahm Kench combo. And that means that Splyce had a weak early game, they've had a weak mid game, and now they kind of have to hope for a late game, but G2, they seem to have all the advantages across the board.
Zoning ultimate there from the Jhin. Decimating Flash comes down, the axe used by Odo has to pop the unstoppable onslaught to get himself out. Was going to get caught up by that deadly flourish. Now G2 pushing towards the inhibitor. No real way for Splyce to engage. G2 get their second inhibitor of the game. They're looking to close this one out, do it by the numbers, go up towards top. and take down that final outer tower.
And watch how G2 will also set up vision around the top side of the jungle, because this is a great opportunity for them to know that Splyce haven't had a chance to get some wards down. They'll be able to try and defend this top lane tower, but G2, with full control over the jungle and more than enough damage to dive, they'll be able to take the tower and then set up nicely for the upcoming Baron.
Wunder sitting at 4 soul fragments as well, means that his ultimate will do a sizable chunk of damage. We'll be trying to get 5 before the fight starts, as you can see popping the Vision of Empire there. It's the little red lines underneath his health bar that show us exactly how much damage he is going to do with that ultimate. So keep track of those as we watch the Swain and the Cassio in this next fight for G2.
See now G2 just waiting for Baron to spawn. Note how Splyce cannot leave their base. This guarantees G2 control over the top side of the map. They don't need to take the tower. They don't have to overcommit. They just have to wait, keep poking until the Baron respawns for Splyce to come to you with the 2 super minions walking into the base. Splyce will have their attention divided, and it just makes it so easy for G2 to either find a fight and secure the Baron or just take the Baron outright.
Remember the last time these two teams met in playoffs, it was a 5-game series. Splyce almost dethroned G2 then. They're looking to do it here as well, but can sense that we've got a pretty feisty series on our hands here, Vedius. Both games have been close. This one looking more like a G2 snowball that we've seen throughout the split, but they had yet to close it out. You never know what is going to happen. The damage onto Kobbe from long range. Never move into Vision of Empire does a huge amount of work.
I feel like teams need to start banning Swain.
Yeah, you get that feeling, don't you?
Well, Baron being kicked off, Tahm Kench used to quickly get the team into the Baron pit. Odo, he's not going to get there in time.
That's going to be gone, Xerxe. He does have the jump, it doesn't quite land a smite, and Jankos secures it for his team. Looking for that place in the semi-finals. He manages to get the Baron for them here, and now Splyce are running for the wins. They've already lost their jungler. They've lost their mid lane as well. Odo caught out, he's going to fall. G2 clean up after the Baron, and they're looking to end the game.
G2 with a very clean game overall. They get an early game lead and they use it properly this time around. TB comes in from Wunder, he's after more kills.
Swain just absolutely devastating, ripping the souls out of his enemies. G2 trying to continue this dynasty that has been established over the last 2 years. They're looking to even out the series, and they will do it as they take down kaSing. They catch Kobbe on the fountain. PerkZ not done yet, but they are done now as they take the Nexus and even out the series 1-1.
I mean, many people expected a close series. We're guaranteed at least 2 more games, Medic. At least. So the fans will definitely get what they want.
And that was so much better from G2 as well.
Much more one-sided, yes. Felt like Splyce kind of limited themselves in terms of the draft, and that they were pretty reliant on getting ahead in the bottom lane. And if they weren't able to do that, they didn't have that many other options, given the scaling component of G2's composition. And also, like, I feel like you have to ban Swain.
Yeah.
In game 1, while Nisqy wasn't a terror on Swain, like, his impact was still there. And while Kobbe was dealing a lot of damage in these late game fights, the fact that Swain could just jump in and deal additional damage just made things worse. The passive that just drags in any immobilized target too is just even more obnoxious. And just, someone's got to take him off the wall. If you're red side, you got to ban it. You have to, because blue side is always going to first pick it, and it's going to have an impact.
But both teams must have thought they had a strategy to deal with it, because both of them left it up for that first pick.
Yeah.
They accepted it. Maybe now they'll realize as the draft progresses, as we get further into this best of 5, that you need to change things up. And that's where we really see the power of the coaching staff as well. That's where you really see the impact that veteran players and veteran coaches can have in a series.
You know, it's quite interesting because I've heard a lot of discussion around what's better, blue side or red side. And in Europe, a lot of teams seem to value the counter pick and the fact that you can pick 2 power picks. But over in North America, they're like, no. First pick is the best thing because people don't have an answer for Swain. He's too strong, and you force an easy ban out, which means that you can easily get yourself a priority. So maybe Europe have to shift to the NA mindset, or maybe they have their own strats coming up throughout the rest of the series.
But blue side is 2-0 today, and G2 have tied things up in this 5-game set. For an expert eye, let's check in with the analyst desk.
Thank you very much. What's the answer to Swain?
If you don't ban him, you at least get something out of giving him over. Like, let's say, maybe you get a winning bot lane.
Yeah, maybe you could do that.
Yeah.
You could probably do it, but Zilean.
Well, we're going to take a look at the picks and bans. So to recap, after game one, what you guys said is we still want to see Wunder on a carry alongside PerkZ doing well, and we want clearer or easier win conditions from the side of G2. Is that what they managed to do with this draft?
I think so. I love the fact they end up getting 2 really strong side lanes in the early game. Yep. They have a fine matchup mid for PerkZ. They have much easier teamfight to execute because the front line is now a Skarner, Tahm, Kench, and a massive Swain, who, by the way, you can't kill in team fights when his ult is up.
I mean, I think they're one pick ban with the first pick, but yeah, like overall, they basically just picked themselves into comfort too. I think especially the Tahm again, the Jhin again, obviously plays into their bot lane just being kind of abandoned. But yeah, they actually acknowledged what went wrong game one. They kind of fixed it to a certain extent.
Now, in their draft, and Wunder, he went off.
I mean, Wunder, of course, looked super, super good because he gets... Like, this is my problem with the Splyce pick and ban phase is they end up having the Sion going top against Swain, so they know they're losing top side. Especially because Skarner can literally just play around it so effectively early if he needs to. And then in the bot lane, they go all in for scaling. So they will get pushed in 2 different lanes now, and they have the weaker early game jungler as well to try and do anything on the map.
So is that then what tilts it? Because to me, them going for late game carries in the bottom lane that work is a strategy that has worked out for them, but the combo with the jungler is what makes it problematic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just too much of the scaling side, and when you have a top laner who's going to get pushed on the turret and give up first turret in almost every case, I feel like then you put yourself way too far behind, and I don't even think you have that much superior scaling. Yeah. Because you're against Swain, Cassiopeia.
So what jungle pick would have worked better?
I mean, I don't think it's down to the jungle. It's more about the combination.
Lane,
basically, if you pick Morgana instead of Zilean, you at least have some kind of lane pressure, and you actually give Sejuani a lane to play around because Morgana, Sejuani do have a CC combo, especially on level 6. I think Wadid inside eyes, and you actually have a winning lane too to a certain extent. So you create win conditions early game, and I think Splyce in general is a team that kind of falls into a hole of sometimes overthinking, hey, we want to win team fights, we want to have the scaling. And I think this game, it didn't pay out for them.
It didn't pay off. We talked about Wunder before. We're going to take a look at a couple of his highlights because it isn't made easier for Splyce from the fact that Wunder gets early kills and that he on his Swain becomes a menace very early on.
Yeah, so Sion Sejuani trying to gank a Swain at this point here, like he heals almost more than they can actually, you know, deal damage against him for. So it's really, that was some weird English, but anyway, Wunder can just effectively 1v2 them, and then Maurice take over.
Okay, so from here on out, it's basically like just TP bottom. And
nice life.
You see the amount of damage that this pick does, especially if he's not shot down early, where you have no tools to actually fight him with, and he just rolls over Splyce, and that's where it ends.
And then, of course, G2 will still get the Tahm Kench, who can just ult from different lanes. They have a non-stop pushing top laner who will never die, who can never get stopped in Swain, and they can just start playing around Baron. And we're still kind of waiting for 4 items almost on the Caitlyn.
They're never going to get there.
Before that Zilean Caitlyn combo is actually going to be worth anything. Fun fact, blue side has been the better side for this draft.
In quarterfinals, red side won every game.
Why is that the case?
What's going on?
Like, so let's see, blue side. And then there's this champion that's been first picked without anyone having answers for it.
I'm pretty sure it has 100% win rate in EU LCS 2 right now.
And I think in German it's called Schwein. I made that joke before. Yeah,
right,
so you need answers for Swain, otherwise you just ban him.
So no answer, just ban it. If we take that out of the equation, what's the next step for Splyce? More early game insurance, more proactivity out of the early game, something that in the second half of the split, they did very, very well.
Mean, I expect if for example, like G2 is going to land on red side now, which theoretically they shouldn't, because obviously they're side selection now, I do think that getting the Xerxe, because the Swain will probably be gone to the other side, like, and the Xerxe should be out there. And like something like maybe even J4 is completely undervalued. I think Sejuani is an okay early game champion, but you have to again combine it with some kind of CC in the early game to actually make it worth. Because if you have no lanes to play around, then there's not going to be any kind of effectiveness for the pick.
Alrighty, so more action early or more tools for them in the toolbox whenever they get behind.
Yeah, they need at least one lane they can effectively play around early to get a lead.
They need to do something, but no man overboard, only tied up at 1-1 in this best of 5. We will see who can bring us to match point after the break. Good segment. Oh, we're still there.
Oh, hello!
Hjärnan,
is enough. Wow! Killing the air. So as they take down kaSing, they catch Kobbe on the mountain. PerkZ not done yet, but they are done now as they take Nexus and even out the series 1-1.